for a couple others to trickle in, which we might have, but we'll go ahead and get started in the essence of being somewhat on time. I'm Christian Barnes now from the Blue Valley office, and I am here today to moderate, but really it should be pretty easy because we've got such a phenomenal panel up here and would love for you all to ask questions as well as we go along. But I'm going to start and have everybody introduce themselves. Why don't you tell them name, what office you're from, and then since panel on assistants, how long you've had an assistant.
Go ahead. Sharon McNulty, Plaza office, 4.5 years.
I'm Georgianne Hayhow from the Leawood office, and I've had an assistant about 4 to 5 years as well.
I'm Betsy O'Brien from the Leawood office, and I've had one since January.
And I'm Emily Aylward-Vogt, and I'm with BHGRE Village office, and I also have one since January.
I'm Lynn Mateel at the Blue Valley office, and I've had one probably 5 or 6 years.
Before we dive in, I do want to thank Janelle Anderson from Old Republic for bringing us breakfast this morning. There are muffins up here and fresh coffee. Thanks, courtesy of Janelle. Thank you very much. So first question, at what point, and we'll just kind of go down the line here, what point did you decide, or what was the trigger for you to decide that you needed an assistant?
24 hours a day, it felt like. I just worked entirely too much. Not that I was probably, and probably around 32 transactions a year. Just got to be too much.
I was having a really hard time balancing, and I will be very honest, I'll be the first one to curse this morning, balance is bullshit. But at the same time, still have to at least shoot for it, I think, and I was bogging myself down with unnecessary tasks and paperwork and things like that, stuff that was very hard for me to offset, not gonna lie, but once I was able to let go of that and just be like, okay, this is gonna work, it was good. But yeah, it was just too much of the unnecessary stuff, because this is a belly-to-belly business. If we're not out there meeting people, talking to people, working our COI, we're not having anything to work on in 2 or 3 months, and that's the important stuff.
I think I thought I was balancing it, but I was constantly on the, watching TV at night at 9:30, still doing stuff on my computer. I was never really focused. I was never totally relaxed. And it was my husband who finally said, give it a try. I kind of mentioned it, and he said, let's just try it for a year and see how it goes. And I'll talk about the rest of it later, but it's much better. So
I actually, my broker basically came to me and said, nobody will consider using an assistant, and I feel like you and your team are doing enough business now where it's beyond the point of needing one. So far this year, we've done 50 transactions. There's 4 of us, one's brand new, the other, so it's probably split between, I'd say, half me, half the other, less than half the other one, and then probably a third. And so I thought I was multitasking really well and doing .loop. And I was helping Betsy out, she was out of town, and there were some mistakes, and I realized I really don't have a grasp on this. So as much as I thought I could do it all, I realized I didn't. So I requested everybody on our team use an assistant for 1 year and see how it goes. And I said, don't do it like one transaction or the other, because you'll forget which transaction you've used the assistant for. So I requested that they all try it for a year, and then after a year they don't find use of it, fine. That takes me off the hook for the auditing purposes. I know that there's not going to be any mistakes. So that was me.
I come from 20 years of nonprofit and always had in those days, call it a secretary to delegate to. And so when I got into real estate, I thought, well, there's sure a lot of stuff that I need a secretary for. And then I also talked to Phil Summers, and he's been kind of a mentor to me. And I said, Phil, when did you want to hire, when was it a right time? And he says, for you to do your business, when you hit about 8 to 9 million, you need an assistant. And so I followed that advice, and that's what I have, and it's worked.
Now, are your assistants all licensed or unlicensed?
They're all licensed.
Mine's unlicensed.
Mine's
Yours is
unlicensed.
unlicensed, yours is licensed?
No.
Not licensed. So Lynn and Sharon have unlicensed and the three of you all have licensed. So, Lynn and Sharon, what duties do you have your assistants do as unlicensed assistants?
Primarily paperwork. I mean, all the stuff that I personally don't have to do. It's not customer facing.
Mm-hmm.
Interaction with title company, processing files. Once I write the contract, I turn it over.
That's pretty much mine. I'm on my third assistant, so I've had some ups and downs. And she has been with me, the one I have now, for 4 years, and she and I did PTO work together. She's a CPA, and if anybody knows me, I don't do my checking account very well. And so she keeps track of that, like she'll even, like one time I was doing some realtor.com that I didn't know I signed up for. It was, what was that I signed up for that I didn't even know, like $300-400 a month, Christian, remember? And she caught that, you know what I mean? So those are the kinds of things that she helps me with. Plus, she helps me, like, we have Agent Open, she'll take care of those. She's just got a nice presence. She can serve as a hostess, and she does all my paperwork, marketing, as well as transaction coordinating. And part of it is everybody does, are we gonna talk about payment?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, I won't talk about that.
We have the same assistant, so I think maybe when we get, we'll kind of go back to that, because it's probably a lot of the same stuff
That's
too,
fine.
agree.
So, on the license side, aside from what Sharon and Lynn have talked about, what all do you have them do beyond that, or is it a lot of what they've already talked about?
I would say it's a lot of the same things, but then also the really nice part is when there's a crunch, like if I get double, triple booked, I can send her out. If there's a last minute client and they're like, we have to, and I'm like, well, I'm already across town, do you mind if my assistant goes? They're like, no, we just want to get in the house. We don't care, we'll talk to you after. Or if I have an inspection that maybe had a change of time or something and I need to adjust my calendar, she's there as a backup, and that's huge. Or if I'm out of town, someday.
Same thing, so and we'll talk about fees, like I kind of have one set fee if I kind of do the base of the paperwork and all the processing, but when I need help for open houses or showing or inspections, I have a pay by the hour kind of fee as well to add on to, depending if it's needed, and that's come in handy. I have a team, but sometimes it's easier to ask somebody else. You feel guilty always tapping into somebody, so with my assistant who I'm paying, I just don't feel better about it. But she does, all paperwork, all the, checking the title work, making sure, sending me meeting reminders for the inspection, the last day of inspection, just keeps everything organized, so I don't lose track of things. And it took me a while to let go and trust that she was taking care of everything, but she goes through every dot loop and files into agent working docs, title docs, lender docs, and it has every loop is totally organized by the paperwork, and that is amazing. So I'm much more, I can find stuff very easily.
I think the biggest thing is if it's not doing something that's helping you generate business or making you money, you probably shouldn't be doing it. Paperwork is not helping you cultivate more clients. It is hard to then say, well, this is something I could do, and it's not, I could do it and save the money, but really you're actually costing yourself money. So it gives me more time to do the things where you get in front of your clients, or you meet somebody, or you spend time on the phone and you call people, or doing something that is actually going to push your business forward. And to me, I think it's easy to use the paperwork as a crutch of what you think you need to do instead of doing the stuff that you should be doing. So, she takes it. I mean, I write a contract and that is the last time I see it. She cleans it up, she finds mistakes, she gets an amendment drafted within 5 minutes, she sends it back to all parties, she loops back into the other co-oping agent and says, I'm Emily's transaction coordinator. She sends us all a reminder that adds a calendar event to our calendar so nobody's confused about what the inspection period is.
So the listing agent and the buyer's agent.
You accept it and it's on your calendar. Everybody's on the same page. I think it also adds a professional element for me to say to my clients, just so you know, this person will now be sort of pushing the paperwork around. You can reach me at any point for whatever you need, but in terms of paperwork, this is coming from her. If it's coming from her, it means I've seen it and I've looked at it and you need to take care of it.
Can I ask a question at this point, or do we need to wait till the end?
You can ask a question.
So before we move off the topic of where were you at, or why did you hire someone and what they're doing, is the 8 or 9 million that you mentioned, Lynn, is that pretty much what everyone else thinks, or did anybody else do the trigger earlier, or?
You may do that in 2 transactions, though.
Well, that's just what Phil told me, so that's, but at that time, you gotta realize in Better Homes and Gardens, there wasn't very many people that had assistants 5 years ago,
I've heard it's 5 million.
so.
Our broker says if you're doing anywhere around 5 million, you should not be doing your own paperwork. But really, depends on how you
And how many
operate
transactions you have
with
too.
your, you know, with, yeah.
I think 5 sounds low.
Sounds too low to,
I think it sounds low, but cause you gotta make it, and then you gotta figure out what risk you wanna take money-wise, like I pay mine per hour, that's fine. But, you know, if you gotta pay some, and the other thing, Phil told me is never pay benefits. He's got himself tied up into that, and so when you're interviewing, you can kind of figure out who needs benefits and not. I know that's not how you're supposed to do it, but you can. But you know, I mean, that's important too.
While you talk about it, let's talk about how you all pay your assistants. Is it hourly? Is it by task?
I pay, Betsy and I use somebody that is an agent,
At another
with
company.
another company.
Oh, my.
Wow.
Mhm. And she does it for, I'd say, probably a dozen agents in the
And
city.
they're all different companies, all the agents she does it
Okay.
for.
So she has a separate email account that is not tied to that company, and she has her own LLC. And she has a .loop account that is not tied into her company, it's just her as a person. And I pay her per transaction, and then if she needs to go and do something, show a house, what is it an hour?
It's 50 an hour on top of the transaction, and per transaction, we pay 300, I pay 300, and we pay.
So I had her calculate how much I've spent this year, and I've spent about $5,000 on transactions.
Does she have people work for her? She's working for that many agents?
She's unbelievable. I think
No.
she doesn't sleep.
And I mean, it is the most organized, efficient, and the other thing that I'm able to do sometimes, so let's say I'm showing a house and somebody can't get into the loop, or they've locked it or something, I can text her or call her and say, I need you to get into the 62nd Street loop, the buyer or the seller's locked out, here's their number, please call them, walk them through it or whatever, and she will do that. So I mean, it has.
She's really good.
Yes, she has, and she's pretty picky, like, I will say, she will not work with anybody that does not have a handle on .loop. So like, a couple of people have come to me and said, can I have the name? And she'll talk to them, she'll say, if they don't have a basic understanding, I can't do it.
Why would someone who's licensed wanna do that for
I asked-
$300 a transaction?
I asked her, cause we kind of went, we can interview each other at
Right.
first, and she said she was selling, she's a broker, she sells also, but she didn't like working the hours, the last minute hours, the evening, she wanted to be able to travel. And she is so organized, and she does all this, you know, she can do it at home, she can do it when she's traveling, vacation, her hours, and she, you know, she's just able to not be running out. She can go visit her
Is she still
grandkids.
selling?
Yeah, but I don't think she sells much.
She and I started actually at Reese Nichols together in the new agent training, so I've known her for 15 years. She moved to South Africa at one point, now she has grandkids, you know, I think she just is like, I don't really enjoy the selling part, but I love the lineage of like straight lines, things in an order, and getting things done. And it still allows her, I think.
She can travel and be
Right.
gone and do everything that she does, except if she's covering, like, if I ask her to go show a house and she's not here, but I don't need that help regularly as much, so.
It just seems like it's not very much money for what she's doing.
I think
when
she has
a
enough
license
people
too.
that she does, I mean, 'cause I was trying to figure out between the agents, she works for agents who I think all sell about 10 million plus, most of them that I know that she
Mhm.
works with, so I think she ends up
So do you
making more.
1099 her at the end of the year?
I pay her through Venmo every month, and or every transaction.
they
I
track
wish
that
there
for
was
you.
a way to do that, and there's just
You can't.
not. There's just
What?
not. It's just an expense, it's just a work expense. We can't do it
Through a
through,
company.
yeah, we can't, I can't do it through a referral because then it's based on her commission split, so you can't refer money.
No,
You
but
have-
when you're paying somebody more than $600 a year, don't you need a 1099?
They do, that's their
Yeah.
responsibility,
Yeah.
from my understanding.
I don't do 1099 for her,
She does it for
Yeah,
herself.
she
I
has-
guess- oh, I see.
It's on her to
So
claim
It does
that.
happen, it does happen.
Yes, I'm saying,
No,
but
no,
I
no.
just do, I Venmo every month, and so then I can
I-
track
But
my
you can
expenses.
write it
I
off.
1099
I write it
mine.
off, yeah.
I 1099 mine.
The thing about per transaction that I will just say was easy for me to swallow, because I think hiring somebody and having a salary, you feel like you're a little bit locked in. I'm like, well, shoot, is this person gonna be here on a Tuesday when I'm not here and I don't really have anything going on, and now I'm paying them for an hour to just sit here? I mean, I don't want to do that. So this made the most sense for me, and, I mean, it's definitely had an impact on my business in a positive way.
Does that help with the, well, so I still have the seasonal stuff, maybe you don't, but I'm still slower right now. And so that's what I worry about with an assistant, that if I'm paying them on a regular basis, that I can't really afford to pay them through the winter. But then in the spring and summer, I need them like heck.
I mean, I think especially if you're doing somebody hourly, you wanna be fair to them, because if you say, I need this number of hours when you are busy, even if the hours decrease a little bit, I think it's still important to try to maintain as close to that as possible. But, I mean, we all sit in the offices and see how many people show up every day, let's be honest about that. And I'm in the office every day, and the same 5 agents out of our however many agents show up every day. And I think the times when you're not busy are absolutely the times to plan, to be in contact with clients, to, I mean, you can have an admin say, hey, let's get my Christmas card list
Right.
ready. Hey, let's have an event at the office. Hey, give me a list of what month every transaction closed, and you can just go through by the month and check in with your people. I mean, that is very beneficial stuff. So I think it's not so much that you're bogged down with transactions because it's May, and more that you just need to spread out how you're working during the year.
I think the other key to that is you have to hit that certain volume, and you have to be financially prudent. You have to have money in the bank. You can't be doing it on the fly because you're making a commitment to another person to have a full-time person. But
Ours is
transaction
different. Yeah,
coordinator
ours is different.
gives you some leeway, so you're not having to make that commitment. That's a great step into it.
And my situation is that my person just really doesn't need to work, but just wants to get out of the house. And, you know, and there's a lot of people in that situation. And so she can work for me for 30 hours a week, or she can work 0, doesn't really care if it works in. But the negative about that is in case she's got, you know, her family comes before my job, and, you know, so see, sometimes we work through that. But it just, I cannot, I have never had anybody that I promised 20 hours a week. I've always had a little bit of flexibility, just mentally I couldn't handle making sure I made this much money.
And do you pay her hourly or?
Yes, hourly.
Okay.
So then Sharon and Jordan, how many hours do you tell someone that you will pay them per week?
So I do things completely differently, I found, I've gone through a couple of assistants, and I was very disappointed in the quality that I had. And I think that offering somebody no benefits and an hourly rate and saying, hey, it's on you to 1099, I don't think that's a lot of fun for a lot of people, and it cuts out a lot of really good candidates. So I have figured out a way to, my admin is full-time, she works 40 hours a week for me, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, and I try to be very flexible in that, because I know that there are times when I am more demanding, and I expect her to be there, show up, do what I need. I don't care what time of day it is, but she can also, when that happens, I let her have a lot more latitude on other days when she might need a few hours here or there. So she is a full-time employee. She's a W-2 employee. She gets full benefits. She has insurance. She has paid vacation. She has retirement contributions from me. I mean, she's got everything, and I think that really increased the quality that I have. And, you know, I'm responsible for her. And that does put a little bit more weight on me, But it's also the same all during the year, so I feel like less stress in that way, because I'm like, this is what it costs to have her. I know what that is, and I can budget for it for the year. And it's worked out really well.
How many transactions a year do you do?
Usually, like probably 50 to 70 during the year.
Just yourself?
She's a machine.
Very good.
But yeah, I think that that was a huge game changer when I switched to that.
Sharon, how was your assistant set up?
So, he's W-2, no benefits, because he has benefits at another job. He's with me only part-time, and we're both mature. So, we both have different needs and wishes, and we want to travel. So, for me, it's more of a convenience sometimes than a necessity. I wouldn't have to have him at this point, but it's nice, and I don't have to work as much, and he has a little fun, and he enjoys it. So I do W-2 him, and we're really kind of flexible with hours. Usually, maybe 10 to 20 hours a week.
Do you guarantee a certain amount of hours, or is he pretty flexible?
I am happy to guarantee it, but most of the time he wants more time off, so it works.
It's easy. So how did you go about finding the right person and the right fit? Tell me about the hiring process and finding the right
I
person.
she told me what her broker told her, but I asked for a list of, the gal we use, to print out a sheet of what's included in her transaction fee, and I like looked at this, I thought, $300 and you're gonna do all of this for me? This is insane, like, I wouldn't do this for $2,000, you know? I'm just saying, it was a huge list, and I thought, okay, that's not gonna break the bank in a transaction. I'll try this, it makes sense. I was scared to take a risk because I didn't know what I'd be making. I'm not somebody who, you know, has a consistent, every month I make this much. It's kind of every year's a little bit different. But I thought for that amount it was worth trying it out. And then we've kind of modified, her list was very thorough, but there's things that come up that she's, you know, now she loads things on Zillow. Like every time we close it, she does that. She sends out, you know, she'll give you your goals each month. You have to enclose. I made a goal maybe, or she tracks what your goal is. Every week we get an update of all of your open files, what's still needed in each of those files, and she's kind of modified it even more. But when I saw the list, and I liked that I could see a list, so I knew I was very afraid to give up control. Like, well, what if something falls through the loop? Because I thought she was doing it, she thought I was doing it. I was concerned for that, and having that very clear set of what to expect from her made me comfortable trying it, because I could always check my list and see, okay, well, she's in charge of that, and that helped me.
So what kind of liability do you have though if something does go wrong?
I mean, it's always on me, I'm the
Right.
agent, of course, but honestly, she catches more than I catch, and she is in such great contact with our office, what do you call it, AJ, office manager, I guess. Yeah. They work completely together too, so half the time, you know, she'll catch up and she'll call me and say, hey, I saw in the title work this. I mean, I still try to look at stuff here and there, but she's way more thorough than I ever was.
She'll also send out like, brings a perspective on things outside Better Homes, like Zillow reviews are very important, even though we've resisted it. So at the end of every transaction, she has I have created a letter for my clients to say, thank you so much, and here's my goal is to make sure that this was smooth. Here is a direct, instruction on how to do this. You do have to create a login, but then you can opt out of everything. Really means a lot. So I get now Zillow reviews every time something closes, and I never did that. And so that's important. She'll, for the hour, if you want to do something like you go and send 25 to 50 letters after a transaction or a listing sells, she will go and hand address 50 envelopes. I've got a form letter. She'll print them off and send them out. So like I do those things after listings that I didn't used to do.
And is that, when she does things like that, the add-ons, is that an hourly, or is that?
It's hourly.
Okay.
Trying to think of other things that she's.
So
What's
did you
the
find her
hourly?
through your broker, or did you find her from
I
somewhere
just
else?
I knew that she had worked with somebody primarily, and then
In your
kind
office?
of, no, just at Recent Nichols, and she just was like, I just don't think I wanna work for one agent, I think I
Am I
wanna
allowed
just
to
kind
ask
of.
questions too?
Oh,
So she just kind of said, I'm doing it for a couple different people, and I think she contacted me and just said, would this be something you'd ever consider? And I was like, no, are you kidding? And then again, I saw this sheet and I met her for coffee with somebody else that I work with on my team who's always trying to make me have more systems. And I sat down with her and was like, I really probably need to do this. And so I just made a commitment to do it for 1 year and see how it goes. And I cannot, I will not go back. I will not go back.
I hear that over and over from people that once they hire an assistant, they're like, I don't know how I ever did it
And it's a
without
hard,
one.
yeah, it's a hard thing to sort of, it's a hard leap to make, but I don't think you're gonna know unless you try. And there will be a learning curve, like we were talking at the beginning, like, will she do that or do I do that? Cause I'm used to doing that, is she gonna take care of that, or, you know, and there was a little bit of communication in the beginning, like, so are you doing that? Yes. Are you doing that? Yes.
Do
So.
you have some way to go in and see what's been done?
Well, dot loop, that's why I think dot loop has changed. I mean, without dot loop, she probably wouldn't be, I mean, it's so easy to see.
So she manages
Well, the
to
type,
that
she
way.
put the title company, the lender, so I can always go in and see all communications by everybody and where the files all are. She has everything labeled, so it's very obvious for me, without, I never have to call her. I rarely have to call her.
And even title companies are like, oh, we just love, your transaction person, we love Allison. So, I mean, it's made me look better.
Now, does she have direct contact with the clients? With your
Yeah,
clients?
and I tell them at the beginning, I just say, okay, I'm sending it to you right now, but in the future, you're gonna get something from Alice. If it comes from her, it means that it's coming from me. She is the person in charge of all paperwork. If she sends you something, it means you need to fill it out. If you have questions about it, or you're unsure, or there's a mistake, let me know.
And also, when I do listing presentations, I make sure, because people know that I'm busy, and so that I think that reassures people in my listing appointment that, yes, I have someone that will do the paperwork, and that, I'm not a team, you'll deal with me, but also
Right.
Cindy does a lot of the paperwork, and I think that really helps people, when they know that I'm busy.
I was always so embarrassed that, like, I would send a dot loop document and I'd spell their name wrong, or like something on a resolution or something, and then it's like, then I've left my computer and I'm out and I'm not gonna be back again. So there's nothing, there are no to-do lists on that stuff. I mean, I saw somebody spread out in my office the other day with stuff to get signatures and initials, and it was somebody in our office who was asking about a team assistant, and I just was like, we will not do any of this. And it's hours and hours every day, every week. And you don't think it because you're just doing it.
Do any of you feel like, that, sometimes I feel like that going through the process with my clients, whether it's paperwork or just the process in general, is part of building the relationship, especially if it was not a client that I was on my COI, but let's say maybe was a lead of some kind. And I'm just wondering if having that assistant takes away some of that relationship part.
I'm still building relationship. I still talk to everyone every week, and more often if there's a need. So even though somebody else is pushing paper, I still am in connection.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it opens up more opportunities for the fun part, because the truth is, buying a house or selling a house is much not fun as it can be. It's also really fun and exciting. There's always something new. There's a new chapter to their lives, and being involved with a client on that level, and getting to help them plan for whatever their next stage is. And that gives a lot more freedom, I think, to that. And that could mean a lot of things. Sometimes people want you to go shopping with them, or come up with ideas, or help them do all the things, coordination-wise that are outside of the transaction, and it frees up that time to do those things and make those recommendations, and kind of help them also build relationships with other vendors and stuff around town, or if they're moving out of town too, getting lined up.
Well, and I think I do the contract always with my clients. I'm the one, we talk about it, we talk through the inspections, the resolution, but she's the one who's going through like, oh, they forgot to check the box of the earnest money is gonna be, a cashier's check or whatever it is. And if she's writing up the amendment and pushing it through, I didn't even look through it to realize that box wasn't checked. So it's not like she's taking over the, explaining the process to someone. It's kind of just fixing things up, making sure the title company has the resolution, making sure, she had found a commission statement that was wrong. She went through and caught something that was a mistake I didn't even see it. So it's just kind of tying up all the loose ends on that. So I don't feel like I'm missing that interaction. I'm still taking the time with my clients to walk through those important pieces.
So for the ladies that don't have assistants that are licensed, do your unlicensed assistants go through the paperwork and check for errors?
Oh, yeah. The only thing they can't do is, show a house.
They can, and I heard you say something earlier about hosting open houses, unlicensed.
No. Like, basically, well, like sometimes I do agent opens, and she's really helpful with that. Cause some of mine I can't do by myself. And so those kinds of things that she does, hosting, and she just is really good at that.
I think just to tap into the touch points of your clients, I have found it gives me more freedom to call them and say, I was just thinking about your daughter's room, and Home Goods has this darling little thing, and you should do that, or whatever it may be that doesn't have to do with the business of it. I think that is where you can connect with your client and be a person that they can sort of rely on for that.
And also, I think you can kind of go back to all this generational kind of thing, like the millennials like all of this dot loop and all of this. And then I'm right now helping a 92-year-old lady sell her house. Well, I need to go to her new apartment and visit with her and take her a thing, and so it has a lot to do with who your client is at the moment, But it was my assistant that wrote up the amendment, told me to go get it signed. I didn't do that. You know what I mean?
So you're in a relationship and there's the paperwork.
Yeah, well, because Lynn didn't realize that Dot Loop forgot the damn W and the address, that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So here's my question, I enjoy that part of the work, like, I don't wanna give it up, were any of you in that situation?
Yeah, I thought I did too. I thought I enjoyed that part.
Why didn't you
The paperwork?
I like paperwork,
Oh,
I do.
I never have.
I thought I
Yeah, I
did.
do too. I'm type A.
I thought I did, because I think you like it because it's all condensed and it's under your control and it's under your vision and you know what's next. And I
think we should even trust somebody else. Like for me, I thought I liked it too because I'm type A, and I always knew I always had a controlled chaos to my system, but it worked. But once I'm not doing it, I don't miss it at all, and I feel like because I know it's being done better than I was even doing it,
Yes.
helps me too.
It seems to me that, like Betsy and Emily, you guys have somebody who brought something to the table, who enhanced your business, already had a plan, a system in place, correct?
Yeah.
Did you hire somebody who knew what they were doing and you had to train them? Or did they come to the table already?
I think that kind of plays into the question
Yeah.
that Christian was asking,
Right.
like, where did we find these people? I know for me, like, the first assistant I hired was just like word of mouth. Oh, yeah, you should hire so-and-so. And it was like, it was insane. It was not good. And I didn't have an interview process, and I didn't have like a formal application, and I didn't have any of those things. So when it was time to hire the next person, I was like, okay, I need to like look in a pool of professionals that understand the business. And that's, I started to like ratchet down what are the things that could or should be important. And then I had to get on myself, and I actually worked with someone who is more like corporate American, and like, teach me how to interview. Tell me what to do. And he was great. He's like, here's some questions. Here, don't say I gave this to you, but take a look at this. And it helped me define like qualities that I was looking for, questions that I probably wouldn't have thought to ask. And those really helped me like pare down and find a good fit, because it's not just personality. Sometimes I think something that can be appealing from the beginning, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have the skills necessary. Because if it's not someone that says, I've done this for all these years, and here's what I do, and I'm super organized, you're creating a new position. Each one of us runs our businesses differently, so it's a unique position for all of us, and we have to figure out how to incorporate another person and let them be our best version of ourselves with our clients.
Now you've had, let me ask a follow-up question. You've had several assistants. Have you had better, not luck, but better experience with somebody that comes from within the real estate industry or somebody that comes from outside and you're able to kind of start from scratch with them and train them?
Definitely within.
Okay.
100% within. And that could be, I mean, it could be someone who's worked on another team. Be careful with that though. If someone has been on another team in an administrative capacity, they often have a non-compete. So you don't want to get tied up in that and get beef with another agent in another company. So that's a really good question to always ask. Because I have one, so like I know. I think that we have a unique industry, and understanding the highs and the lows and the stresses, and I mean, I'm sure, like we've probably got a room full of the best stories ever sitting right here. You know, crazy stuff happens, and to be able to go with the flow and understand these things, I think is best for someone within the industry. Whether they've been an agent and they were kind of soured on, it's also not exactly a fun job all the time, and it's pretty easy to lose money if you're not out there all the time. But they've got some really good basic training.
When you hired somebody, did you have them go through like the .lit classes and, you know, all the different kinds of stuff, or were they already kind of in that place?
I mean, more, yes, but more like, it was like, Georgian, do you not understand .loop? Let me sit you down. Can you just sit down for 5 minutes and learn I'm like, fine. And this, you know, my admin's really good for that, because she keeps me like on track. So yes, she knows the stuff. And
But did you know that coming in, or did you have to get her trained for that?
she actually had a good basic understanding, and then she did additional training on top of that, the gal that I have now, and then she's like, I'm going to duct tape you to your chair until you either handle this task or you learn what I need you to learn. And I'm like, okay.
That's the kind of person I need.
Right.
Well, but the other thing is, when you have somebody working for you, you need to keep ahead of them, you know what I mean, with your delegation. Sometimes it's hard to have something working for you, because you just assume, I'm really bad about thinking that they know what's going on in my head that needs done, and I need to communicate that. And I think that's the hardest thing for me, because I run too fast, but I think you really need to keep ahead of the issue. And that could be task lists and all that, but you still, I have a weekly meeting. Cindy and I sit down and she tells me what I need to do and I tell her what she needs to do. You know, that kind of thing. And we are old fashioned, so we do it face to face.
What kind of other systems do you all have in place, dovetailing on that, to communicate, the communication method back and forth with your assistants and tasks?
I'm gonna add in on the, how did you find somebody, because I've done it both ways. I first hired somebody who was a realtor who quit because it was too demanding. And I thought, okay, I'm the person that runs all over the place and chases shiny things, and I'm not good at sitting down. So this was a person who was pretty streamlined, system-oriented, yada, yada, yada. I had systems in place, and that let it go was horribly difficult. And I did, and then I regretted it, because my systems got completely wiped out, and it started a different path. So my second and favorite is Dudley, who slipped in the back because he was out letting a radon person in a house, and he was letting a buyer walk through. Right. And he and I view it more as a partnership. I mean, he runs my world. He tells me what to do. I don't tell him what to do. And he was not in real estate at all. So he is in another occupation that he understands how you work with people. He understands confidentiality, and he runs the world. So it was a natural fit. We had to go through and start systems from the beginning, .loop and all that stuff, and I thought I was gonna blow his mind for a minute, but he's got it. He takes care of everything.
So that was hire for attitude, train for skill.
Well, but it's the personality,
Right, that's what I mean.
the
Hire-
basics are there. I chase things. I don't sit down well. And I thought, I am type A. I thought I had a handle on it.
Yeah.
But I'm the person that will miss that check mark.
Oh.
And he will cover,
Sure.
right? So I think I'm very organized, but in the end, he's better at it.
Georgina, what system do you have in place, or systems, in terms of communication back and forth with?
Well, so I'm one of those weird people that like has to be at the office every day. So if I'm not out with a client or at, you know, some sort of civic thing, I'm at the office because I can't work from home. I get too distracted. I think I have ADD. What were we talking about?
Exactly, but that's
Right.
a trait of a
Right,
realtor.
it's good
Yeah.
though, and bad, but, so we do, I mean, we're right there working in tandem all the time, which is great, because if I need something, she just has her notepad and she's just like, do, and just starts tackling things and I go on to my next thing. But we do get together and I have kind of this set sort of things, like, so, plenty of times I'm not in the office and she just has to be self-starting. So she knows that first thing she does in the office is check CSS, sees what I'm showing for the day, prints all the sheets, prints all the disclosures, has all that sitting on my desk for me. She knows to check .loop, see if there are any changes that have happened. Like she just has her systems. Well, okay, if all that stuff's good, hop through the files real quick, the hard copies, make sure we have everything in our hard copies, make sure that Angie's received everything. So she's just kind of always doing, if not individual tasks that I've assigned, she kind of has this set stuff that she goes through every day just to make sure that we're on track.
And obviously our format's different, so I probably haven't seen my assistant in 2 or 3 months. Last time I saw her, we were actually showing the same house together with different people, but she does a weekly transaction update on every open transaction and gives me the list of kind of where we are on everything, send the utility information to the client. Still waiting to review title commitment, you know, closing set for bubble, you know, has it all lined up under each transaction. And then through .loop, I always can go in and see, she keeps agent working docs as our top section, so I always know kind of what's the next thing we're working on, and kind of check in with her. Now, I also text her here and there, but we do a lot of just the .loop, chats back and forth.
I have not seen her since coffee in January. I mean, but I feel like we do because I talk to her, or I will text her. I feel like the things that I personally is allowing me to, you know, I mean, the systems in place, it's sort of the same, but the systems that it's allowing me to do are planned for January, February, right now, as opposed to pushing all this paperwork around. And I think, to be quite frank, there's a lot of still touch points of clients, like, I need to get back in the house with the architect, and so you call the other agent, and then you gotta call back, and then, so there's still a lot that you're still having to do. It's just, I think the cumbersome documentation that is required per file. The other thing that she does for me is I have an autofill document that you can say, here's the garage code, here's the trash pickup day, our neighbors to the west and the east are such and such, whatever it is. And so she knows to get that in the week before and push that to them at closing. I mean, it truly is like really hands-off, but I do not feel that I am missing anything. I think what it's allowing me to do is actually think about where my client's coming from and where do I want my business to be. And I have 2 young kids, and I don't want to be at my computer at night. I just don't. I want that time. And I think that is probably my biggest message is I think we constantly hear from other agents about, you know, how much time we're spending. And sometimes I think that maybe I think for me it was like, I'm so busy and I have all this stuff to do. And now all of a sudden, I'm not so busy. And I'm doing more business. So and my nights are not chaotic. If I'm ever in my home office and the door's shut, it's because I'm actually talking to a client. It's not, hey, Deanne, can you put the kids to bed? I've got 2 hours of these documents to push back and forth, you know. So to me, I feel like it has really given me a new lease in real estate in such a positive impact. And you know.
Very good. Anybody have other questions or?
Yeah, so for the ones that you have that are full-time, that are like in the office with you doing everything, most of our deals happen Friday nights at 8 p.m. I don't know about you guys, so.
And
are
we're out
they
of
just-
town, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so are they you just call them and they just work like when you need it, like you said, like instead of you pushing it?
I think we're all kind of on, no matter what type of assistant we have, I think that we are all the same in that we do the initial contract. So if we have a client at 8 o'clock at night that needs something, that's the time we do shut the door, we get it handled, and we get it set. But the truth is, there's not a ton to do after you get signatures, and it can wait till Monday morning.
Sure.
You know, all you have to worry about is how many days you put for earnest money, honestly. And that's why I say always use 5. Just everybody, let's use 5, not 2. There's weekends.
Now, let's change that on the contract.
Right,
Right.
5.
I also,
Where's the
the
line?
resolution, I do touch my resolution. Alice will not touch a resolution. I should say that. So, those are specific, unless it's like treat for termites, and I can text her or call her and say, this is the resolution, will you draft it up? Otherwise, she makes a policy not to touch that, so.
I wouldn't want to touch, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to touch it,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
something, that's what we need to
Yeah.
be, so. picky.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's a really
that-
good point, Emily, because that resolution, as all of you know, is key. And that I,
Well, the wording of it too.
Yeah.
Critical.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, if I have a deal on a Friday night, I get the signature and then I just add her to my loop and I say, hey, will you, on Monday morning,
Monitor
push this
this,
off to all
yeah.
parties. And I just write her a note and then I don't think about it the rest of the weekend.
Sure.
Do you still spend a lot of time looking for things for clients, or does she do stuff like that for you? Like, you have a client that needs a $300,000 house with a pool in the backyard.
Because
and they-
now you have all this time.
No,
So you spend time
yeah.
doing that still? Okay, I mean, I feel like I
Yeah.
spend a ton of time doing that.
Yeah, it's because you're doing other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That you're feeling like, well, now I gotta check CSS, whereas now I'm like,
Right.
I'm checking CSS.
Well, and I've only been doing this just right at a year, and I sort of feel like this transaction I'm doing right now, there's nothing to do. I mean, it seems like everything's very smooth, and I'm worried, did I miss something? I mean, I'm creating problems now. because
Yeah.
I'm like, when is the shoe gonna drop? Did I check everything? Is it okay? And I
when,
keep going back.
when you're, I mean, you've got a lot of experience in the business world, Lori.
But not in real estate.
In real estate, it's very scary in those first
It is.
few years where you're like, yeah.
It is, and I'm only gonna, I mean, I'm not at 5 million yet, I'm at like 3.5, so it's not like this huge business that I can't.
But it's great.
Well, yeah, I've been really lucky, I'm not starting at 21 with no contacts or, so it's a little bit different, but, I mean, I feel like that's been a really good first year, but I feel like I'm just flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think
That's-
I
honestly
feel like I just
normal.
here and
That's
there,
right.
and I just,
And that's-
you know,
right.
I can't get a handle on it because I'm like, oh, this guy needs this right now, oh, no, go over here and do this, and it's
But are
making
those
me
showings or is that demands for paperwork?
both, it's everything, because I don't really have good systems in place yet.
That's
So
the
then the
kids,
one-
even when
And that's
you're
really
by
it, so if
yourself,
I don't
you
have a
gotta
good
have
system in place, am I really ready to hire an assistant?
And this,
Depends.
Or do I hire one so she can put me in a good system?
something that really, I'm gonna do a little, this is not anything with an assistant, but anyway, I was in the business for 3 years, kind of feeling like you were, had no systems, cause I don't really like systems, I don't like even brushing my teeth after I brush my hair in the same order. And so, I did brush my teeth, but you know what I mean. But, I did, Ninja, and I know all of you, and I was the first person to sign up for Ninja. They have phenomenal, we were in the same class, phenomenal systems, and I know they're doing Buffini or
Which
something
is what I'm
else.
doing, but I feel like I could spend full time doing Buffini trying to get myself
But-
set up, and then I don't really
Well,
have
if
time
you,
to-
if
But you
Buffini's
could,
not
if someone
working,
else is
go
helping
to
you.
Boulder and take Ninja. They have awesome systems, and they save the day for me.
Right, I mean, I'm doing this Buffini, and it's just, I mean, I could spend full time kind of working on it and
Just
just
don't
doing.
drink out of the fire hose. Pick something and do it.
You
Yeah,
can't
right.
do
Do your,
everything.
you've got
Right,
to do
that's
your
it,
client
that's it.
work first, and then set
Right.
aside an
But
hour.
I just sort of feel like, just bounce up here and there, just trying to hold it
That's,
together.
welcome to real estate.
Yeah, that's sort of how I do my kids too, and they seem to be okay.
No one's an expert or
You're gonna be a
jail.
And one thing about our company, you have great support
Right.
from your broker
True.
and your transaction, whatever they call it.
Right.
What's Terry called?
Our admin.
Admin. I
Yeah,
don't
like
know.
Melissa's
Yeah,
amazing.
but you know what I mean, and your associate brokers, those
I
first
know, I
3
just feel like there's
years.
so many classes
And
I need to
that's why
take
I've-
because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I need to go to Greenhouse, and I need to go to Zach.
Well, you can't do everything.
I don't do any of that.
Really? I mean, what is, I don't even know what overlaps. You know, what does Zap overlap with, and which one should I pick? I just
Ignore
don't
Zap.
know.
I know.
Or
it's-
Zap, there, you just heard it. Ignore Zap.
Ignore that.
Really?
It's not a thing.
I would disagree with
I
you.
know the opposite of
I
that.
know, but I just feel like I'm bouncing around and I
Okay,
can't get
I'm
anywhere.
gonna weigh in.
Okay.
I think you should say to yourself, okay, what is it? It's October, September. I think October, November, and December. Every transaction you do, you should try and find somebody. Annie, our broker, has a ton of resources and say, can I pay you per transaction?
And just try it.
And take paperwork away and see what it does. It's not a full commitment, but
Right, it
that
feels
way-
like I'm giving up control with my client. It feels, I mean, it's all of those things that you guys had talked about.
But you gotta realize, one of our competing, real estate companies, that's how it's done, you know what I mean?
everything's
I mean, yeah, well, they have no transaction broker, you know, they pay that $300.
Right.
Which company is that you're talking about?
One of the
One of
competitors.
our-
One of our
No,
competitors.
not a BHG company.
Oh,
Not one of our
okay.
competitors.
Okay, I thought you said one of our
No,
companies.
no, one of
It's-
our.
it's Keller.
One of
Yeah.
our
I mean,
competitors.
every time I've ever done a transaction with anybody at Keller, I never worked with the agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and really, I mean, you do need that contact of like, hey, we've got an issue, like, you know, I've got a situation where like the seller's really old and he's struggling and my buyers are, you know, so that's where I think you show your value.
Yeah.
And
As
there's a
an
right
agent.
way and a wrong way to work with the help of someone else.
Uh-huh.
And stepping completely away is not okay.
No.
No.
Right.
I don't-
I
very
used to have
similar.
this where I had an assistant that did, just sort of intuitively knew what I needed, and I miss that. So I get that
And
how.
you gotta realize, those people are hard to find.
I know, because the next two people after her.
But get somebody who already knows,
Right.
they'll essentially train you.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need somebody
There
to
you go.
sit me down and say, take me to this step.
Yeah, and you may be coming from the corporate world,
Well, sort of.
nonprofit, was it
Sort of.
nonprofit, corporate?
No, we were for profit, we might not have made a profit.
See, I did 20 years of nonprofit
Right.
and had a hard time not being able
Right.
to delegate. I don't know how a school teacher does it without, you know, delegate.
I think, you know, Georgianne she is running her business much more as a business than I would say I am.
And I
And
want to
I'm
run
not-
it like a business, that's my.
So that is probably I think it's a really big difference to make. I mean, 50 to 70 homes for one person is
A lot.
a lot. That you would not, I think her
Couldn't
having
do it.
that is
Couldn't do it.
the only, I think it's the smartest thing and I think
It's
it's the
a lot.
reason she's successful.
I know, but it's a hard thing to do without an assistant.
But you also have to look at yourself about how much risk you want to take.
Right.
Because I am going to be 62 in October. And so I've been doing this 10 years and how much stress do I want to put on myself that I have? Because if you figure out, I can tell you how much I got to make per month to pay my bills. And then how hard do I want to work at this point in my life? And so that's why per hour, per transaction is safer for me. If I was, if I was 20 years younger, I would be doing what Georgianne's doing.
I'm somewhere in
And for somebody
Pardon?
like you,
Somewhere in between.
Yeah.
somebody like you, who's used to that corporate environment, you're gonna take to this a lot easier.
Mhm.
So taking that stepping stone to a part-time or a transaction
I mean,
person.
I feel like I
But
can do it
once
right
you
now, but
did-
I'm not quite there.
But once you did what she's done,
Yeah.
it just blows up.
And it was always a goal of mine to do that. You know how you got, you set your goal. You know, I do a business plan every January. And my goal is to do X, Y, Z, do my budget. And, my goal was always to, I also have, another important thing is to have my own office. I couldn't stand these rooms with three, I like you all, but I don't like having, you know, how agents,
Right.
there's 3 or 4 in an office. And so my goal is to have my own office and have an assistant. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
you
no, I
set your
get
own
it.
goals.
How do you keep track of what you're doing during a day? Because I know every day is a little bit different. Like, do you just have a notepad? Do you
I'm a paper person, I don't do it on my phone.
Paper.
Yeah, I'm such a Luddite, it's just,
I
I
write on my
can't do it.
hand
I don't
every
do,
day.
I don't do my phone calendar, it's all written down. God help me if I lose that. And I am very fortunate to be married to someone who takes my calendar every day and puts it in his phone.
So,
So if I lose mine, I've got copies.
here's what I recommend. Over the course of a week, keep your notes from the week of what you needed to do. Grab a highlighter on Friday and highlight a handful of things that you didn't have to do yourself. And then you've identified the key things that you are already comfortable
Letting go.
offsetting. And saying, you know what, I really didn't need to run those signs and lock boxes. I didn't need to run that earnest check.
Right.
I did not need to turn in that paperwork to my office. Are there parts that go into those things that you have to do? Absolutely. But which little tiny things, and I think that if you have a highlighter and a
Right.
list, it's gonna click.
I made the biggest mistake of all the transactions on my own house. You know,
Yeah.
we listed it on a Thursday morning, and then my dad was sick, and I had to go to the hospital, and I didn't get the lockbox over, and 3 people went to see it. I mean,
Don't be your own realtor.
how stupid is
Right.
that? I know, but I mean, how stupid is that? I just didn't get revenue.
Right.
Linda?
So can we go back to the pay? I heard the $300 per transaction. What about the rest of you? How much do you pay per hour? I'm just curious. How
Or
much
a range,
salary?
if you're not comfortable
If you're-
sharing or
Yeah,
disclosing that, what do you think is a
range,
fair range?
A
for
range, just an idea, because I have no idea what.
I think it depends on what they're doing. I think there's a big difference between somebody that's pushing paperwork for $18 or $20 an hour and someone that's out showing, and they should be compensated a lot higher. So I think, if you're doing hourly, you need to really assess where they're at task-wise and pay appropriately for that.
Ours is 50 an hour, anything beyond our transactions.
Okay.
The other thing is if you have a contract and she starts it and it gets canceled, you do get charged a portion, so that's, I think, a $50 fee. But then if that somehow flips back, then it's credited. So, for example, it was my listing, the buyer canceled, it went under contract again, I got credited for that. So, I think you have to spend money to make money. It's just a basic, you know,
You
it's
just have
gonna.
to be in the right place to be able to do it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you are.
I have another thing to say on compensation, and it's not about admins, it's about ourselves. I have, for myself, I had to take a draw. I take 2 checks every month, I take the same amount every paycheck, and that's it. At the end of the year, I figure everything out, you know, I have an accountant that I also have that's not my admin, and she pays all the work bills and stuff like that, pays my company credit card, but, when I went from having commission checks that I cashed, by the way, if there's money in the bank, I spend all the money. I'm never getting married again. They'll be like, what? You spend all the, right, I spend all the money. So, but capping myself and saying, here's what I'm paying myself a month, and this is it, really, really helpful.
That's smart.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is understanding your budget, and most of us are really bad at it. I use Quicken, thank God for Quicken. I wouldn't know anything if it wasn't for Quicken, but for those of us who that's not our natural strength, it cleans everything up, everything's in a chart of accounts, you can tell what you've spent where.
And that's why, that's probably the biggest thing with me with Cindy, is that, you know, she pays attention to when I write the check wrong or something.
When you sign up for something for $300.
$300.
And then I don't know it.
Yeah. Closest thing I have to budget is I just do 30% for the taxes, and that's the rest of it's mine.
Linda?
So when you guys introduced yourself in the beginning, you said how long you've had an assistant. Can we go back? Tell me how long you've been in the business before you got the assistant?
Way too long.
I was a slow learner. I got
But
my
you're still
license
here.
in '86,
Okay. And so when did you have your first assistant?
4.5 years ago. I
Okay.
always insisted I wanted to keep it just me. Took me a long time.
I've had my license since 2002, but I was an assistant before that. So that gives me,
That helps.
right,
Terrific, for someone
So you
who did
knew what you
all-
wanted
yeah,
people to do
so
and
yeah,
how
I
you
worked
wanted
for
it.
a top producer, and so, I mean, I know, like, I knew what I wanted, because I had already done the work. And the nice thing was, I could say, here's how you do it, because,
Right.
I mean, I had a pretty good background in that. But, I mean, it's also hard, you know, with different ages too, you know, since I've had my license, and I was pregnant when I was in pre-license class, found out, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great, and I've had 4 kids since then, so, you know, there's a lot of stuff that changes in life that you can't always plan for too.
I've had my license for about 11 years. I was a school teacher in the beginning also, and then I had 3 kids under 3, so I had a real slow start. So obviously it took me about 10 years to get 10 active years before I got an assistant.
I think I have been in the business 14 or 15 years, and you know, my background was in news before that, so big shift. And I got my license the year the market crashed.
It's me too.
Yeah, so that, I actually think it was the best thing. I thought to myself, if I can do it in the worst possible scenario, which I think I sold like 2.5 million that year, because I didn't know any different. Then hopefully I'll have a career. So, but it's been a while since, yeah, I don't know. I think having things that you want to do in your life other than real estate is what should drive this. It shouldn't be 80%. It just shouldn't, and it doesn't, I don't think it has to be, so.
You don't wanna be Chip Glennon?
So you, how long,
You don't wanna be Chip Glennon or whatever his name is.
14 years.
yeah, but you, how long have you had an assistant?
January.
January.
Big time frame.
I've been in business 10 years this month, and when I started, and you guys, I think there's been some within our company, there's been some changes because they were, you know, I was starting to get bogged down within 4 years, and at that time, there was no assistants in our immediate office. You know, it was really difficult. I didn't have much corporate, nobody really knew, the only one I knew that had one was Phil. And, you know, he's his own little deal. And so they're really, you know, my broker didn't know how it worked, you know, nobody really knew how it worked. And I think that's one reason why all of us have really not had one earlier.
I think going to your broker to ask for suggestions if it's something that interests you and pick their brain, because I think they have a pipeline of people who want to do this in some capacity and if they don't, I still think they would be a good.
Or they
place
might
to
call another
start.
broker and help out.
Well, and then Daryl was always been supportive of me, making sure we had space and all of that. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a negative thing, but it was just at that cultural time, it just, nobody was really doing it. But
You're
it-
probably the early adopter because you had been an assistant.
And there might have been more people had assistants, I just didn't know.
Can I ask, each one of you, how long after you hired an assistant did you start seeing
Oh, immediately.
immediately?
Improvements, you mean?
Less stress.
First transaction, I was like hip hooray. And so my husband has noticed it more than anybody. He's like said, like, I feel like I can go to dinner. I can now just text her as opposed like, I gotta get some, you know, I'm on my dot loop, I'm on this. And like, so he, really one transaction, he's like, oh my God, I'm so happy.
I feel like it has, but it's hard to tell if that's just my year or if that's, you know, there's 3 other people on our team. I would like to think that it did have an immediate impact because I am able to do things like go through my COI and call people and, you know, plan things and, you know.
You weren't doing that before.
I was not very good at it. I wasn't very consistent. I'm a very good pick up the phone and call.
But not consistent.
But I think, you know, that just is, it's just so much easier now. So I think it, you know, doing pop-bys and dropping stuff off at people's doors and then calling them and telling them you've done that, I mean, that always leads to business. I regularly send out postcards. You know, I just am in a much better flow of the things that actually do generate more business. And every time I do one of those things, it does.
And you gotta realize, you know, people have been in this like 20 years ago were spending, think about how much money they were spending to Kansas City Star and those kinds of things that doesn't come out of our commission check anymore. So we just are more service oriented, I think, today.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in terms of like direct sales. Like right now, we have sold more this year than we have last year. So I think it's impacted everybody.
Any mistakes that you've come across along the way? Any advice, any pitfalls that you would give them to avoid in terms of assistance and?
I think the most important thing, especially with someone new, is really investing the time to, because you have to have trust with that person. And it's a two-way street. Like, they have to trust that you'll tell them what you need, and you'll have to trust that they're listening and understanding. So it's not just about systems, although, I mean, definitely put the time in for that, but really, make sure that you're compensating fairly and communicating well and building, you know, what it takes to be a team together, because that's really what it is. That you're working together for one common goal for every single client, and building that foundation, I think, is essential. And if that means some time away from some other stuff, I think it's time well spent.
And they handle things more transactional, so they may not have this, but I think the other thing is it's not a 3-year-old. You're not saying no. You're saying, here's what we do, here's why we do it, here's the things that can happen if you don't do it. It's your 16-year-old, not your 3-year-old. You have to have the why behind the. But, you know, you have to, they have to understand you're kind of one person.
And I have the same, I have such trust for mine, even though we don't like sit in topic, I count on her because she's proved her credibility so quickly to me. And like I said, so I feel like I still also am very appreciative and of always thanking her, and I think you really have to trust somebody and let go of that control a little bit, let them do what you're asking them to do.
And this is changing the subject like I usually do, but another way of compensation that I know of 2 agents that are quite successful in our company, they do a base pay and then they do a % of the commission check. So that's another way to do it. That might make you feel more comfortable
They
too.
would have to be licensed.
Yeah, these are
Right,
licensed.
I have
These
done
are
that before,
licensed.
it's like hourly with transaction bonus when something closed.
Yeah, is that how yours is?
I used to do it that way,
Yeah.
I don't anymore.
But anyway, I know 2 agents that do it that way.
There's a lot of different ways to
So I just wanted to throw
compensate.
that one out. But nobody wants to talk about what that is.
No. I think one of the biggest downsides to a lot of people for not hiring assistants is you all have all hit on it in different ways. It's giving up control. And that's one of the reasons I've never hired an assistant is I don't want to give up control. And I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I know that at this threshold volume wise, I'm not going to do anymore if I don't hire an assistant. I either have to be comfortable with that or take the leap of faith. What advice do you have for taking that leap of faith and giving up control? What helped you get over that fear?
Well, I think naturally, the longer you're in this business, the more you're gonna do. I mean, you're gonna have a deeper pipeline of clients. And, I really wanna enjoy this job. It's a really great job to have, and for the most part, we all have great clients. It's very, I think, rare that we don't. So for me, I really wanted to have a career, but I also wanted it not to be everything.
Mine was more family driven than business driven, but I think it kind of is a twofold thing, because I think my business, we'll say at the end of the year, but my business has done just as well, hopefully a little bit better than last year. But either way, I'm definitely having more family time, so that was more my motivation. And I also think for me, the transaction payment was less of a, it was this scary for me. I felt like if I changed my mind or if it didn't work out, I wasn't making, I could obviously not pay somebody a salary with my earnings. So that was not gonna be a choice for me. So this was just a little bit less risk, but I also think having that right person made me take the job. I would not have done this with just anybody, and I felt like once I had that confidence and I felt I could do it, like I had to have the trust, then it was worth it to go. So I think waiting for the right person is really important.
And to tag on to what Georgianne said earlier, there is no such thing as balance. Well, there is. When you're at work, you're working. And when you're at home, you're at home. And having somebody else help you allows you to be at home and not have a computer in your lap.
And like yesterday, I went to lunch with my new grandson and went shopping, and my assistant was doing my contract at the office. So you know what I mean, and that is joy.
It is, yes. Yes, that stuff is not meaningful. The paperwork, I thought I liked it, you will not miss it. You will not miss it. I mean, I was right there, and I thought I had it, and
But you just gotta figure out the balance too, that you as far as money, how much risk you wanna take and that kind of thing. I think most of us can afford it way before we think we can.
yeah.
And the transaction coordinator system is a really small leap of faith if you look
Right.
at your total commission.
And commitment wise
too.
Right.
It's just like
They don't have,
getting pictures taken at the same
Right.
cost.
Yeah.
right,
And how do you find a good transaction coordinator?
That's the tough
ask
part.
around.
Yeah, ask around and ask your broker. I mean, brokers know a lot of people who are in the business or don't wanna sell or do it for other people. You know, there are a lot of people who are really good at it. It's probably not gonna take you long to find them.
But there's also ones out there that think they're worth about, 75,000 and aren't worth a damn, so you kinda gotta figure it out yourself. And also, it took me 3 girls before I got one, things just don't work out sometimes.
So I know none of you have spouses that are assistants, because I didn't hear that. I have one that's thinking of retiring and thinking about doing that. Any advice, or have you heard from other teams about whether that works or not?
Who is it now?
Her husband.
Oh.
It depends on the.
I'm sure that's true. I'm just, I feel very comfortable. Have you seen anybody do that?
I don't know that it was more, it was definitely not in an administrative capacity, but, for years, my late husband Brian and I worked together, and, I just took over, now I do both of our jobs, so, but I loved it, and I mean, we were huge nerds. I mean, like, we'd grab pizza or Chinese on Wednesday nights when we didn't have kids, and that was date night. We'd hang out at the office and like power through paperwork together, and we'd meet clients together, and we'd switch people back and forth, and it was really smooth. It was beautiful.
But not everybody can do that.
Not everybody can do that, but we both commented on it, like how struck we were about how easy it was for us to be in sync together. And I think that if that's something that could work, absolutely. I would not call your husband an admin. I think that would not go well. Just a suggestion.
Partner.
Right.
A teammate.
We have several couples in our office that are teammates, and they have been for a long time, and it seems to work out for them. I don't know if one of them's more of an administrative, do you know, Tiffany? Of anybody? I think they're all pretty even. But I always,
Yeah, he doesn't wanna sell, so that's the.
yeah.
Does he have
Call
the
it transaction
aptitude to be
coordinator, the skill
the
set.
detail person?
Yes, he does.
There you go.
That sounds like you got one.
Yeah.
We got a couple at our office, Marion and Larry Coast, and I think Larry does most of the paperwork.
Yes.
Probably easier to use a transaction coordinator first to understand what it looks like before you try to train your husband.
Right.
That's an idea, okay.
I think Kathy and Frank Carey do that too.
Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Somebody mentioned having an accountant in addition to an admin. Do any of you have couriers, or do you put?
I
things-
started with that. I used to pay for my earnest money. Well, I had little kids at home and hated driving anytime I didn't have to, so I started paying Capital Express to come to my house, pick up my earnest checks, deliver them around town. And that was kind of the first step of like, I don't wanna do this kind of stuff anymore. I don't wanna be running around when I don't have to. So, but that started becoming like, I realized you could get a lot more, still a little bit more, but it was,
I still do couriers with, even with my assistant, cause it just doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
not pay that to be done.
I also, it's not to shortcut, but it seems to be a little bit more direct, and it happened by default. A lot of times when you write a contract, people don't immediately give you a check, right? So, especially with multiple offers, you may have to write a couple contracts. So when it does get accepted, I was coordinating with somebody saying, when can I get your check? And I'll go, and then finally they were like, where's the title company? I'll just go drop it off. So I just say to them, like, if it's easier for you to come bring me the check, or for me to get the check, great. If it's easier for you to drop it off, what would you like? And 10 out of 10, they're like, I'll just take it myself.
And Continental Title now has it online.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
First
You
and
can
second
just-
working
it's-
line.
It's like a mobile
deposit.
Yeah.
that's nice.
And you get a copy of the check too?
It direct deposits.
There's no
and
check.
then they send you a
It's almost like
confirmation.
a wire. It's a direct
Yeah.
deposit.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
It's awesome.
Well, I wish Security First would do that.
Security First is
You just go online like you would
Similar.
pay a bill, then you put your account info and. it
Very
just
quickly.
uploads into the
But I
system.
think that's the way.
Yeah.
It has to,
It's
because
going, yes.
finding a copy of those checks is a problem.
Yes.
Any other questions or?
And if you guys think of something later that they wanna ask, you're welcome to, you're welcome to call or email or,
Just call our assistant.
She
Yeah,
mentioned-
call Alice. Alice will be able to tell you.
I was gonna
And
say, you'll
actually-
probably get three-quarters
Well,
of
and a
people
couple
are
people have
wondering
called her, I don't know what her workload is, I just
She's
know.
not taking anybody.
Oh, she's not. I just know that she's, but it's worth contacting her and just saying, hey, you know, if there's an opening, or it should this be something, or if there's
There's
somebody
somebody
else
in her
who
office
knows.
who's taking new people, I know
Okay.
that. That would be a good place to start.
And again, talk to your brokers as well, because they
Yeah, I
might know
think
somebody in
Christine
your
is
office
opening
that
in our
is
office.
Yeah.
that's wanting to step away from selling or isn't as busy and can maybe do that. That's their skill set, so.
Emily, what's your last name?
It's Aylward Vote. I'm not sure how it's listed in the company. VOGT.
I think it's under A for Aylward
Yeah.
first.
AYLWARD.
Do you ladies have any other comments or any other tidbits that you want to add before we, I know we're,
Thank you guys for coming, it's very
It's very helpful.
Oh my gosh.
very good. Well, we appreciate them being here. Thank you very much.